The older I get, I realize that I just don't have time for bullshit anymore. I just don't have time for any of that. The older you get, you realize that time is the most valuable resource on the planet, and you just have no time for fake people or bullshit. I'm only 38 years old, and to some people watching, maybe that's young to you, but to me, as someone who just remembers being in my 20s, what actually felt like yesterday, I realized being this age right now, in terms of what I'm willing to do with my time, I just won't tolerate fakeness anymore. I just won't tolerate the bullshit. I moved about 3 years ago to a new city, and when I did that, I knew it was a pretty big risk, leaving my family and my friends behind in Toronto, moving to Calgary now in Canada. And honestly, since then, it's been very difficult to make friends. And after a few failed attempts, I just got to the point where I said, what's the point of this? Like, I am 38 years old. My time is worth so much more than this. I don't have the time to wait around for people to switch plans, make new plans. I don't have time for that. I have a child at home now, a 8-month-old, and it's really put things into perspective even more. I don't want my time to be, spread thin. I want to spend as much time as I can right now with my baby at home, and watch him grow and see all the developments, all the milestones. I want to be as present as I can be, and that's why I don't have time for the bullshit. I don't have time to go through 6 or 7 interviews anymore in the job market right now. I just don't have time to be stuck in traffic anymore. I don't have time to wait in line at the grocery store. I just don't have time for that. I want to make everything as easy and just as carefree as I can. But it feels like modern society boxes us in. You got to have your 9-to-5 job. You got to work minimum 40 hours a week if you want to be able to afford rent. That's fine. If you're in your 20s and you're grinding and maybe you see yourself as an employee one day at a huge company and that's your life path, that's your mission, go right ahead. But as I get older, I realize that's not the life for me anymore. I don't want to live that life. And if you feel the same way in any way, let me know as well down below in the comments, because I know a lot of people feel this way. And maybe it's something that comes with age. Maybe that's why people become more grumpy and they're more like curmudgeons when they get older, because they see through the bullshit and they know what bullshit looks like. They know what it smells like. They can hear bullshit. They can smell bullshit. They can see bullshit. And I just don't have time for it anymore. I don't have time for people who still go out to bars and get drunk 2-3 nights a week. I don't have time for that because my time is too valuable. I don't want to wake up the next day with a hangover and feel like shit. And then next thing you know, the next day, half of the day or the entire day is almost a write-off. I don't have time for that shit. I don't have time to go to a bar and spend $15 for a pint of beer here in Canada with tip. $15 for just one drink. Next thing you know, you're feeling good. You're having 2, 3, 4, and you have a hangover and you have a bill to pay as well. Congratulations. I don't have time for that. It's stupid behavior to me at this point. And if you talked to me about 10 years ago, even, I probably would say, no, it's fine to go hang out with your friends. It makes sense. Yeah, it did make sense a little bit more, when I was in college and even early in my career. Sure, yeah, it made a little bit of sense to do that. But now in a new environment, in a new place, a new city, where I haven't really met anyone new that made it feel worth it to me in any way. I've met a lot of acquaintances. I definitely have a lot of acquaintances, people I like here in the city. But in terms of actual friends, I haven't really made any new friends. And if the only way to make friends is to go out and drink and be stupid, then I guess I won't have any friends while I'm here. I guess the only time I'll be able to hang out with my friends is if I go back home to visit family. Maybe that's the life that I have to live at this point, because I just don't want to suffer through the bullshit. I'm starting to see through it now. Why is it like that? Why is alcohol such a huge component of socializing in the Western world? Maybe not even the Western world. Maybe it's just the entire world. Why is alcohol such a important elixir? With how expensive it is now, with how it leaves you in a disoriented state, the next day you feel like you're gonna die sometimes with a really rough hangover. It's so stupid to me. That's how people spend their time. And I'm not someone who's completely against alcohol, by the way. I might sound like I'm someone who's completely sober. No, I have a glass of wine every once in a while, 2 glasses of wine, maybe 5 glasses of wine a week when I'm decompressing at home. But I don't drink to stupidity. I never drink into a stupor. I just do it every once in a while to relax a little bit and wind down before bed. That's it. So I'm confined to my home for the most part because it's cheaper, it's a better use of my time, and ultimately it leads to me dealing with less bullshit. If you guys understand why people succumb to this stuff and maybe come to a realization later on in life about why everything feels like bullshit, leave your thoughts down below, because I'd like opinions and maybe some sort of validation. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy for even saying this, but it just feels like with the amount of propaganda that we see now, if you look at movies in like 60s, 70s, 50s, 80s, even in the early 90s, smoking, while people knew it was unhealthy, was still pushed a lot in the media. Eventually, now it's become kind of mainstream to call out smoking as a bad habit, and eventually people, for the most part, have given up smoking. There's a lot of people who still smoke, but it's become well known that it's bad for you, and it's very addicting as well. But alcohol is the same way, and alcohol is very expensive, especially when you go to a bar with tax and tip here in Canada, yet people do it religiously. I'm actually really happy to hear things like Gen Z giving up on alcohol, being a little more health conscious, because not only is that something that's going to be beneficial for them financially in the future, it also leads to me believing that maybe there'll be less bullshit in the world, because we already deal with enough bullshit, from politics to the economy to just the job market, everything else, and then we have to deal with alcohol. I don't know. It just feels like adding extra bullshit to your life, for lack of a better word. I've used that word so many times, but that's just the way I feel right now. 38 years old, and I feel like I'm already a curmudgeon. I don't know. Anyways, kind of a weird rant video today, but just felt like getting that off my chest. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think. Take care.